sun is shining, skies are blue. Time to get away and see something new. From port to port, sailing free, sharing our journey so you can see
what you should be doing when you're looking for or when you're planning your first cruise. So a lot of people, when you start looking for your first cruise, the first thing you do is, you might go with a friend's recommendation, and you just kind of go out there and you say, okay, well, I'm going to book my first cruise on Carnival, or I'm going to look to see who has the cheapest cruise, or, whatever your thought process is. But that's going to be the first mistake. So the first thing you need to think about when you're about to book your first cruise or thinking about planning your first cruise is your budget. Because a lot of people don't think about what it actually costs to go on a cruise. So you go to the website, whoever it is, Royal Caribbean, Carnival, whatever, you pick out your room and then you say, okay, well, this is the cruise that I want to go on. And then you start the booking process. But before you do that, you want to start thinking about how much do you want to pay all in for your cruise, because we're talking about more than just the actual cost of the cruise itself. Whether it's the inside cabin, whether it's a suite, there's a step before that. So you need to think about how you get into the cruise port. Do you live in the cruise city to where you're going to be driving in? Are you somewhere else where you need to fly in? Because you need to factor that into how much the cost of the cruise is going to be. Because if you're flying in, airline tickets. How much is it going to cost from you to get from home to the actual cruise port? You need to add that into your budget. The next thing you need to think about is, even if you're going to drive, parking. Are you going to park at the cruise port? Are you going to take an Uber to the cruise port? How are you going to get from home to the actual cruise port? Because if you're going to be parking, then you need to factor that in to the cost of your cruise. But if you're going to leave your car at one of the parking terminals, at one of the various ports, then you need to think about how much is that going to cost and add that to your actual budget on how much it's actually going to cost for you to go on this cruise. The next thing you need to think about is if you're going to be flying in, and I always recommend you fly in the day before because, and I'm sure if you've watched other videos, other people have said the same thing, that they always recommend flying in the day before your cruise because you just don't know what's going to happen. Hotel. How much is it going to stay for you? How much is it going to cost for you to stay in a hotel for, one night, 2 nights, however long you think you're going to be in your pre-cruise hotel? How long and how much is that going to cost you? Because that also needs to go into your budget. The other piece that you need to think about is if you're going to fly in and you stand in a hotel, how are you going to get from the hotel, or how are you going to get from the airport to the cruise port, or how are you going to get from the airport to the hotel? Are you going to take an Uber? Are you going to schedule a car? How are you going to do that? Again, another cost that you need to think about when you're going to be flying into your cruise. So we live in Illinois. So we fly into any cruise, whether it's going to be Long Beach, we're going to be doing Long Beach this time, whether it's Miami, whether it's Texas, whether it's Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, wherever it is, we always have to think about airplane tickets. If we have a shuttle, or do we need to Uber from the airport to the hotel we're going to be staying at, the cost of the hotel, does that hotel have a shuttle to get us to the cruise port, or do we need to take another Uber? All those costs need to be factored in before we've even paid for the ticket to get on the cruise. So those are the things that you need to think about when you're planning and you're budgeting for your cruise. Okay, so now that you kind of worked out how you're going to be getting to the cruise port, how much it's going to cost for you to do all of that, the next thing you want to think about is, are you going to do this on your own, or are you going to hire a travel advisor? Because if this is your first cruise, again, you're probably on the line doing research and things like that, and you absolutely can 100% book your own cruise. It's pretty straightforward. Just go to the website, pick your cabin, so on and so on, pay for it, book, put your deposit down, pay it in full, however you're going to do it. You can do that, or you can go the other route, which is use a travel advisor. I personally, I use a travel advisor for all the cruises that we go on. We've been on multiple cruises, and I can very well book my own cruise, but I'd much rather use my travel advisor. In my case, it's just because it's easier for me, just because of other things that I have going on in my life. It's just easier for me to call them up or call her up and say, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm looking at. get back to me on what it's going to cost me to do it. Now, it doesn't cost you anything more to use a travel agent or a travel advisor if you're using a good travel advisor. And every travel advisor is different. I think, depending on the complexity of what the vacation is going to be, they may have a fee for you. I'm not 100% sure. The one that I use, they don't do that. Shout out to Team Reach Travels. So I just kind of send an email over to her and say, hey, this is kind of what I'm looking at. This is when I want to go. Let me know what you think, and then she kind of gets back to me on everything. But the benefit that you get with using a travel advisor outside of going in on your own is experience. So hopefully, if you vetted an advisor and you're comfortable with that advisor that you're going to be using, they have experience. So they've probably been on multiple cruise lines. They've probably been on multiple ships. They can kind of give you the ins and outs of, with this ship, what you can expect. If you go on this line, kind of what you can expect. Because every ship is different. Every ship has its own personality. Every ship is you're not going to get the same experience on every ship. I mean, I don't care. I mean, whether it's Carnival, whether it's Royal Caribbean, whether it's Norwegian, every ship is going to have its own personality. So, a lot of people talk about Carnival. So the same sailing experience that you get on, the Carnival Conquest is not going to be the same as you get on Carnival Celebration of Mardi Gras or on Carnival Firenze. You're going to get vastly different experiences based off the ship that you pick. So you need to understand what you're looking for as part of your vacation. And a travel advisor will be able to help you with that. Not only that, sometimes, not all the time, because it's not going to be a cost difference for you. You're going to pay the same thing to a travel advisor most of the time that you're going to pay if you book it on your own. But sometimes going through a travel advisor, they do have, group rates, promotion, things like that. So onboard credit, things going on to where they can actually add that into your cruise. So, that's kind of some of the benefits that you have with going with a travel advisor, especially if it's your first cruise. I kind of recommend it. Or if you know someone who's been on, multiple cruises and multiple ships, kind of lean on that person to see what they're thinking to get, make sure that you're getting on the right ship, because the wrong ship will absolutely ruin your experience and could make you not want to cruise again if you're not on the right ship. So that research is going to be very, very important when you get ready to book that first cruise. So that's a decision you're going to need to make for yourself. Do you want to go at it alone, or do you want the help of a travel advisor? Okay, something else that you want to think about when you're booking your first cruise or you're planning your first cruise. It's going to be how long it's sailing and when are you going? Because that is going to also, again, impact the experience that you have. Now, my recommendation is always, if it's your first cruise, try to go on one of the short sailings just so you can kind of fill out the ship. I mean, because cruising is not for everybody. Everybody is not going to enjoy cruising. I don't care how many people you see, on social media or TikTok talking about how much they love it and how much they've fallen in love with cruising and they're hooked and things like that, which very well may happen. But there's also a whole nother section of people who go on their first cruise and for whatever reason, absolutely just didn't enjoy it and won't do it again. So I always recommend that somebody go on a short sailing just so you can kind of fill it out. How do you feel about being on the ship? Are you going to get seasick? Is it too long of a trip? The movement of the ship, which it's really not that much movement, but again, that's just me. I've been on, multiple cruises, so it could just be that I just don't feel it anymore and I'm just used to it. That, you want to think about, do you want to go on a 4-day? Do you want to do a 7-day? Do you want to do a 10-day, 21-day, whatever that's going to look like for you? You want to think about how long you want this sailing to be. The other thing is when do you plan on going? Because that's also going to impact maybe which line you choose. So if you're going to be going in the summertime, think about that, summer vacation. So there might be a lot more kids, a lot more families. It's going to be hot, especially if you're going in the Southern Caribbean or in the Caribbean at all. If you're going to the Bahamas, anything like that, it's going to be hot. And then there's going to be a lot more families. The ship's going to be more full because everybody's on summer vacation. They're doing their summer breaks. So you want to think about that. Do you want to be in a crowd or do you not want to be in a crowd? Think about that. Another thing, if you're going to be doing a New Year's sellings are awesome. I've not been on one. I plan on going on a holiday cruise, whether it be Christmas or New Year's or whatever, but they're going to be more expensive when you do those. So those are more expensive. And again, getting there may be more expensive because, again, you're traveling during peak time. So if you're going to be going, during the summertime, think about going to one of the lines. And again, it's going to all depend on what kind of experience you want that don't have any kids or may have less families. Virgin Voyages is going to be one they don't have any kids. They don't allow kids on their ship. You have to be 18 years old or older to go on that. But again, Virgin isn't for everybody. But again, this is where the travel advisor comes into play. They can kind of walk you through what that looks like. Is this a good choice for you based on what you're telling them you want to do? You want to think about when you want to go, how long you want that sailing to be, and think about the ports of call that you want to go to. Because, a lot of people will just book a cruise just because, this cruise is, $200 per person for us to go. It may be taking you to some ports to where you might be like, I would never, ever come here again. Because, you're spending your hard-earned money on this cruise and you want to enjoy it. So you want to think about the ports you want to be going to also. This all goes part of the cruise that you're going to choose, the line that you're going to choose, and the vacation that you want to have for yourself. So you want to think about those things also. All right, so you kind of got everything together now. So, you planned your cruise, you kind of thought about where you want to go, you looked at your port, if you're doing a 7-day, if you're doing a 3 or 4 day or a 5-day, which cruise line you want to go on. The next thing that you're going to want to think about is onboard experiences. Do you need a drink package? Do you need internet? Your gratuities, photos, all those things, specialty dining, all those things are going to be an additional expense while on the ship. I don't drink alcohol, so I don't really run into, the drink package issue. I mean, I know there's a whole nother camp out there that some people say you don't need it, some people say you need it. But again, you need to decide that for yourself. How many drinks do you think you're going to drink on the ship? I mean, how often are you going to have a drink? You're going to want to think about that and kind of do some math and trying to figure out, okay, well, if I have, 7 drinks at, average of $18 a pop. I don't know how much the drinks are because, again, I don't drink alcohol. So I'm just throwing a number out there and do an average of, should I add the drink package? Is that going to be beneficial to me, or should I go a la carte and do it, a drink at a time? One of the things that I will say is that I've seen, especially on the longer sailings, for people who buy the drink package on the longer sailings, is that those first few days, you very well may take full advantage of that drink package. But you want to think about the other half of that. Now, think about being on the ship for 7 days and every single day maxing out, whether it's Royal Caribbean, who has unlimited drinks, or Carnival, who gives you, I believe it's 15 drinks. Princess is unlimited. Drinking, let's just say 15 drinks every day for 7 days in a row. That is a lot of alcohol. That is a lot to drink, in my opinion. Again, I don't judge anybody, you're on vacation, knock yourself out. As long as you're being safe, you're being responsible, do what you do. But is it going to be worth it? Like on that second leg of that trip, are you going to be drinking that much alcohol to make it worth it for you to buy the drink package? I don't know. Something you're going to have to decide for yourself. Photos, are you a big photo person? Are you want to be doing that? Think about that. A bundle may work for you in that case. I know Princess Cruises, to me, has one of the best bundles as far as like all-inclusive cruising that I've experienced. I actually buy the bundle on Princess when we sell Princess, because even though we don't drink alcohol, just everything that's included in the bundle, it just makes absolutely no sense not to have it. Just from the fact of having the gratuities included in unlimited dining, specialty dining. So for me, it's just worth it to do that. Again, this is just me. This is not like, advice that's going to fall over and everybody, that's going to be, for everybody. Everybody has to make their own decision on what they want to do with that. Do you need the internet package? Do you think you're going to be doing a lot of streaming? Do you think you're going to be doing a lot of, TikTok Live, Facebook Live, YouTube Live? Are you going to be doing a lot of that, movies, streaming videos, things like that? I mean, that's something that you're going to have to think about. Again, that's going to be an additional cost for you while you're on the ship. If you do not get the internet package, you will, most cruise ship apps, the ones that I've been on anyway, the cruise lines, I'm sorry, within their apps, you're able to text, each other or people that are within your group. You're able to text them through the app and be able to communicate with them that way. I would tell you that, with Carnival, it's a little spotty. It's not always the best as far as like people getting and receiving them, in my experience anyway. But I mean, that is something that's available for you if you don't want to purchase the internet. Specialty dining, do you want to do the steakhouse? Do you want to do the hot pot? Do you want to do hibachi? Do you want to do the Italian restaurant? Every ship kind of has its own mix of specialty dining. Some have more than others, but again, something that you want to think about, do you want to do that? Gratuities. Do you want to pay your gratuities before you get on the ship? Are you going to do it, once you get on the ship? That's something you want to decide. Now, gratuities are not mandatory. You are able to remove them from, your selling if you want to do that. They're not something that they make you pay. They are going to be included in, your drinks and any dining packages or anything like that. They're going to be included in that. But as far as like the steward, the room steward and things like that, those are going to be added to your cruise during the selling. So most times they put a hold on your credit card. If you use a credit card, you are absolutely able to do a cash account on a cruise if you don't want to put your credit card up. But you will see that charge on there, and you can absolutely go to guest services and have that pulled off if you don't want to do that. If you rather tip in cash, or if you feel like you don't want to tip at all, whichever, again, a personal choice for you. Those are going to be one of the things that, you're going to want to think about and deal with. Do you want to take care of this stuff before you get on the ship, or you want to wait till after you get on the ship? Me personally, I want everything done before I walk on the ship. I don't want to have to deal with anything. When I walk on the ship, everything is paid for. Anything that I think I want to do is already going to be paid for when I walk onto that ship. Not only does it give me a peace of mind and knowing that it's already taken care of, but most times when you book in advance, it's cheaper. And then sometimes, especially with specialty dining, if you go on the first night, sometimes they have a promotion where you get like a free bottle of wine or something like that if you book specialty dining on that first night. So you want to think about, what do you want to do while you're on the ship? And that's not even including anything, any arcade games, any roller coasters, any surf simulators, any skydiving, any of that stuff. That we haven't even talked about that yet. But again, all that's going to be dependent on which cruise line you take, which one you end up settling on, and kind of figure out how much all this is going to be added into what you're going to do. Travel insurance. Another thing that you want to think about. Do you want to use the cruise ship travel insurance? Do you want to go to a third party? You can absolutely go to a third party and get travel insurance. You do not have to get it through the cruise line. You don't have to get travel insurance at all. Just again, something that you want to think about. Do you need that? If something comes up, do you want to be able to cancel, be able to get, your money back for whatever a covered reason would be? Is that an option that you want to have? So you want to think about that also. Add that into, your list of things that you want to look into, things that you want to think about before you get on the ship. All right, cruise documentation. So what do you need to actually board a ship in the United States? And I can only speak to the United States because I haven't sailed outside of the United States yet. Normally, the two main things or two main ways that people prove identification is going to be either a U.S. passport or their driver's license and their birth certificate. And it can't be a copy of the birth certificate. You have to have the original birth certificate. If you don't have it, make sure you go and get one from the county. They can print them out on spot. Every state I'm sure has a different fee on how much it costs for them to print those. But you want to make sure you have your birth certificate and a valid identification, driver's license, state ID in order to get on the cruise ship. Or like I said, you're going to need your passport in order to get on the cruise ship. The passport, a lot of people recommend having a passport just in case something happens, because if for some, reason, some kind of emergency comes up to where, you need to sail to the Bahamas and you need to get home from the Bahamas, you're going to need your passport to do that. Because if you don't have your passport, there is a whole nother set of circumstances and things that have to happen in order for you to get back home. It's going to cost you more money. It's going to be a lot more tedious and a lot more paperwork involved for you to get back home if you don't have a passport versus if you do have a passport. And your passport also needs to be valid for at least 6 months after your sailing date. So if you're going on a cruise January 1, your passport needs to be valid through or past June 1. So it needs to be good for 6 months after your sailing. If it's not going to be good for that, either go ahead and try to get your passport updated or renewed or whatever you need to do for that, or be prepared to come in with your state ID driver's license and your birth certificate in order for you to get on the ship. And also, if you're going to be traveling with a minor and the guardian or parent or one parent is not going to be there. Now, this is going to vary by cruise line. I've heard some people say that you don't need it. I've heard others say that you do need it. But if you read on the websites of most of the cruise lines, it tells you that if you're going to be traveling with a child and one parent is missing or the guardian is missing, you need a letter from that parent or guardian who's not going to be with them in order to take them onto the cruise ship. So it needs to be a letter from that parent saying, hey, it's okay for, little Bill to go to, Jamaica with his mom or with his dad. And that does need to be a notarized document. So, and notaries aren't very expensive. I mean, and it does need to be this, this big formal drawn out thing. You can just type it up at home. Make sure you have your acknowledgement on there for your notary. And, you can take it in, you can get that stamped. And that'll clear that up for you. So those are the things that you're going to need for a closed loop cruise in the U.S. And what I mean by closed loop is it starts and ends from the same port. So you leave Miami, you come back to Miami. That's what you're going to need. All right. So those are kind of the things that I kind of wanted to go over. I may have missed some things. I kind of did this at the spur of the moment as I was grabbing my suitcases, getting ready to get ourselves together for our cruise coming up next week. And I just thought about, I wonder, how many people really understand what they need in order to go on a cruise and what's all involved in it. Some people may have very well thought that it was just as simple as going online, booking a cabin, and walking on the ship, and not thinking about those other pieces that go along with that. So if you're a first-time cruiser, hopefully this helps. If you're a veteran cruiser and I missed some things, please feel free to pop in the comments. Leave some good tips down there for some of the first-time cruisers to help them have a great experience on their first cruise. Maybe they'll fall in love like we do, because we absolutely love it. So happy sailing, have a great time, and enjoy your cruise vacation.